Welcome to Jazz Biz 101, where we explore and share our journey as minority entrepreneurs with an emphasis on music business. Okay, welcome to another episode of Jazz Biz 101. My name is Peter Lin.
My name is Dion Morales. Thanks for joining us.
And before we get into our talk with our very first special guest, Dion Tucker, we just want to give you an update as to what we're doing.
Yes, Your Entertainment has got some things that wants to share it with you. Like, for example, one of the main things that we've been doing lately is some of our virtual concert series, and we had the fortune to have this wonderful trumpet player and uprising jazz, smooth jazz artist, Alex Parchment. It was a great experience for us. We had a wonderful time filming this. Not filming, actually live streaming this for this particular concert, and the band was amazing.
Yeah, and we actually had the chance to be able to live stream it off of our own website, a platform that we just started, and which means that we were able to sell tickets, and yeah, we were able to sell around 60 tickets, which is higher than what we had expected actually. So thank you everyone for being a part of that.
Yeah,
You
that's
know.
right. And just be sure that this way of us putting this concerts is a way to support the artists, support venues, and support the community, because
That's right.
we actually go to a particular place. We do it all, under the guidelines of safety during this pandemic. But we still able to bring this band together, this artist together, and make this music, and at the same time we're supporting the businesses and the community. So yeah, so hope we're looking forward for the next shows to come, which is
Yeah, we got Bill Saxton, a kind of a local legendary in Harlem. Uh, and he has his own club that he's had for 11 years now, I believe. It's called Bill's Place. And so we'll be recording, two sets of music there. And so we have two shows that are coming up individually, which you can buy tickets online. The If you want to see about the event, we added a little section to our website. You could go to www.yardbirdent.com/calendar, and you'll be able to see the Bill Saxton playing holiday classics. So that's coming up fairly soon. The video will be released on December 18th, so you can still buy your tickets now.
That's right. We also looking forward to collaborating with the National Jazz Museum and M3. We're running a live stream for them this coming up Sunday and next Saturday. So if you want to check this out, make sure to go to the National Jazz Museum in Harlem, and you will see this event. Can you tell us more about M3, Peter?
Yeah, well, just so everyone knows, we're recording this on Friday, December 4th, or sorry, Saturday now, December 5th. So the two live stream shows of M3, which is organization started by Jen Shu and Sarah. They both were able to bring together a lot of different composers and feature their music. So they have 2 days they're live streaming that we're helping them with. It's on December 6th and on December 12th.
That's
And
right.
that is through the National Jazz Museum in Harlem. They are able to host these events. So we're looking forward to having that.
Yeah, and just to come kind of like keep going with some of the things that we're doing, that we're so fortunate that we're involved with, is also we also have Carrie Jackson, this wonderful singer based of New Jersey. She's legendary too as well, and very strong, contributor to the community in New Jersey. We're doing this from for the South Brunswick Public Library, and we're doing it from this particular studio. So it's also a way to support this rehearsal studio and then the artists and stuff. So we were very much looking forward to it.
Yeah, live from Woodrock Studios.
That's right.
So, looking forward to that. And then we also have we've been editing videos for Jazz House Kids. They actually have classes during this time, virtual classes, and their first trimester is ending with a virtual concert. So we've been putting together different ensembles videos, getting ready for their concert on Friday, December 11th. So be sure to go to the Jazz House Kids page and you'll be able to see the event there.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be a great, actually a performance that the kids put together. It's several ensembles, and they all did a wonderful job. We also have, we're involved with this relief fund,
Yes.
right, Peter?
So my you probably heard her voice before. She's been doing some voiceover stuff for us, but uh, she's a voice actress based in Queens, New York, and her name is Jensen Olaya. And she started this New York City Artist Relief Fund that has a collection of all different kinds of artists and musicians from many different genres and walks of life. Where basically she releases a new video every Thursday, and she's trying to raise money that basically we would all be splitting up to help pay our bills and whatnot. So it's been a pleasure to be able to edit the audio and the videos on a weekly basis for that. And there's been really great, yeah, just different great musicians and artists uh, coming in and contributing. And the goal is $3,000 for now, but we're already more than halfway there. She raised 1,650 so far. So be sure to visit Jensen Olaya's website or her Facebook page, and you'll be able to see the Artist Relief Fund on GoFundMe.
Yeah. And probably people can go directly to the GoFundMe too and just look for an NYC Artist Relief Fund. Is that correct?
Yes, although there probably are a couple, so might be easier just
Go
look
to
up
their
Jensen
website.
Olaya. Yeah, and you'll see some of the videos that has been released as well. You know, some of the musical performances. So those are just a couple of updates, of what we're been up to. But now we're going to jump into our talk with the fantastic trombonist, educator, um, recent YouTuber, Dion Tucker.
Yes, Dion, man, we are so fortunate to have him on the show. He's a wonderful entrepreneur, trombonist, educator. He's played with, the Duke Ellington Orchestra of several years, as well as Harry Connick Jr. He was in on Harry's show too,
That's
that
right.
was airing for a long time, and he's
Mhm.
been a jazz educator for Jazz at Lincoln Center. We're so excited to have him.
Yeah, we have the pleasure of actually playing with him on different occasions. And we've always had great conversations off the bandstand with him. So we hope that you guys get a taste of what it's like to be able to talk to him on just like a normal set break. And, we're going to dive deep into some of the business aspects of what it's like being a musician.
Yeah, so go ahead, let's do it.
All right. We want to welcome Dion Tucker to Jazz Biz 101. Welcome, Dion. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good today, man. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
It's no problem at all, man. Really glad that you're here and been checking out a lot of the Chop Shop, uh, which is a YouTube channel that Dion has been building up since March now, right? It's been that
Yeah,
long.
yeah. It's been I think the I kind of started laying the platform in March and I officially launched in June.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Nice, nice. Well, that's a good amount of planning.
Man,
Good
it
amount of
was
planning.
in the
A
plans
lot of
longer,
time.
even longer than that.
But this, Dion, this is more than just a YouTube channel, right? This is has become more than just interviews and things like that, right? Is this a way? Can you tell us more about this? Like, what's the shop?
Yeah,
Chop
yeah.
shop.
Yeah, the chop shop is it kind of came from an experience that I had where I was dealing with focal dystonia, and
Mhm.
it was a time that was like really kind of crazy for me because I had to retrain myself on how to play the horn. And at that point in time, I was looking for people that could help me, that really knew about this. And in New York City, the people that were kind of like at the forefront of dealing with what you would think are brass issues were Bill Fiedler and Laurie Frink, who
Mm.
have since passed on. So there's kind of a void, and I just didn't know who to call. Fortunately, I was able to work with a woman named Jan Kagarice, and the way that she taught me was really what inspired me to want to have the chop shop. One, because there was a void. I knew, much like myself, if you're dealing with some issues like I was and you don't know where to go, it's good to at least have some source, where to go. So I wanted to create a platform for that, and a way for brass players to be able to think about efficiency in their playing, because there was a lot of concepts that I learned that I had never thought about or was never taught. So I figured, hey,
Mm.
I should share this with everybody else.
I know there's like a ton of, channels surrounding trombone as like the main topic and subject. Channels like the Paul Trombonist come to mind. But how do you view yourself like in that whole community of like the, jazz trombone, platform?
Sure. Well, I checked out all of those guys' channels, to
Hmm.
really kind of see what their voice was, and I just really try and stay true to myself. I realize the things that work are people that are genuine, whether you like it or not, it's genuine, so you're going to have people that are loyal to you when they see that truth in you and your journey. So I kind of I don't really think about it in the sense of how it's different. I just think about it more in the sense of
Mm.
how is it me, and I really try to deliver an authentic point of view to the audience, and it's unique to me. Fortunately, other people are able to latch on and learn from it. But it's really about me sharing my experience, which is different than everybody else's. So it's living in that world. And also
Mhm.
another focus of it too is I didn't want it to be too focused on my playing. I definitely wanted it to be more focused on how can you enhance your playing. What type of tips can you get from me to really start shaping your own thing, because ultimately we're our best teachers. So I just want to lay that foundation and kind of coach people in that
Mm.
direction.
Mm.
Well, I know like on a personal note, like whenever we're doing gigs together, man, like I really admire you as a trombonist already. And like, um, you know, even though maybe a lot of people who watch the channel don't necessarily know the full extent of your playing, for the people listening, I mean, you've had the experience of performing with so many different great bands and performing in so many different situations, that it just gives so much credibility to what you're teaching. I mean,
Mhm.
besides being a great educator yourself, you're a really great performer. So I really
Thank you.
appreciate that. Yeah,
Thank you.
about
I
the
appreciate
chop
that.
shop. It's like it feel the honesty really comes out. I think
Thanks.
that's yeah. I think people can really feel that. And um, but that's pretty interesting because when you look at a lot of these YouTubers, especially in the trombone world, there is also a void in terms of like a representation of the black community inside these channels.
Yes. Yes.
And maybe it's just my own like ignorance about like what's out there, but maybe you could just speak on like what like why that is, or was that part of the reason why it also motivates you to continue doing this channel?
Yeah, definitely. That's an excellent question. In doing my research, I didn't really see too many other African American people doing much teaching, and it's really like, with this whole time of the COVID-19 pandemic mixed in with all the racial unjust going on, it's a definite time that made me kind of stop and think, about being viewed. Now it's amazing when we see these like new black films and black books for
Hmm.
kids, and all of these things are the visualization and seeing it is so important. And I love to teach, and a lot of times when you think like trombone teacher, you don't think somebody like me. 9 times out of 10 you think old white guy. Like that's
Yep.
just like the image that comes to mind. And that's a lot of what you see. So there's nothing wrong with that, but when you see something different and when you see something that maybe looks like you, it sparks a different sense in somebody. So because
Mm,
I have my
mm.
own unique experience, it's going to be different than an old
Yes.
white guy's experience. I mean,
Hmm.
Yeah.
that's just like what it is. So I think people can learn from that because not everybody has had that experience, the other experience. And it's really important for me to represent like the culture, as we say, in
Mm,
a very high, like positive light. It's not we as African Americans encompass everything. We're not just like good performers. We're
Of
amazing
course.
thinkers. We're amazing
mm,
creator. All
mhm.
of that is
That's
important to
right.
see. So I'm just trying to play my little role, in making that scene. But every time I do think a lot about that, the world is going to see this, and I'm a representation of my people, and I want to put the best foot forward always.
Man, could
Yeah.
totally relate to that, right, Abel? I
Yeah, I
mean,
was just
as
gonna say, man,
man.
it's been an interesting time for musicians, and for everybody in general. But what do you think that obviously the pandemic has been pushing us to do different things other than just the regular. Here's a gig. I'm gonna do my gig, and that's all I'm caring about because or I'm gonna practice and I'm gonna do this album and everything. But why do you think we started this conversations, and what do you think is the benefit of this, that like everybody's starting a podcast, everybody. I mean, for personally, I think it's a wonderful thing that we started these things. We talking about like like seeing people like yourself sharing your stories and on the road, and then you also have this wonderful series, the Black Trombone Chronicles. Tell us about this whole general starting conversation on the music
Yeah.
community.
Yeah. I think it's something that is pushed by necessity, and sometimes you have to be in a place where it's necessary to go in a certain direction. And
Mm,
if you don't have that necessity, you might not go. We are very comfortable, and we learned, especially in this country, we learned to be comfortable as we can, even including in our thought process.
right.
So this time with the whole pandemic has pushed us out of our comfort zone, but it's pushed us into a place that maybe we didn't know that we had. Some people are like really good in this format, and they would have no idea that they're good in this format because
Mm,
Mm,
they haven't had to do it. So music is kind of a great teacher in that way. You can't get comfortable when you're playing music
that's
because
right.
then you play a song that and it's in another key, and then it's like, what the hell is this?
I
I
thought I
thought
knew
I
this song.
yeah, and
yeah.
but out of necessity, you get better and you practice in these different it's the same kind of concept I think that we're in right now. So I think like even with the Black Trombone Chronicles, it was something that I saw as necessary at that point in time.
Mm,
I was doing the
mm,
thing called the Black Excellence Trombone Choir, which was a virtual trombone choir that great trombonist Weston Sprott put
Mm,
together. And it brought together trombonists from all different genres, like from Wyclef Gordon, Andre Hayward, Weston, John Romero,
mhm.
Tony Baker, just some amazing people in all genres. And we had a Zoom call and we were all on the screen together. And I looked and I was like, I've never seen this before.
wow.
I've
Yeah.
never seen this kind of
Yeah.
representation ever. Like, I've just never seen this conversation happen ever. So what am I gonna do with this? I
Right.
can't just let this be a Zoom call, you know?
Right.
Man.
So that really led me into, hey, would you guys be interested in sitting down and just talking about your experience? Now, we've all done many interviews
Hmm.
for different things, but it's very rare that we interview each other, and we can feel comfortable about talking about things, that are behind the scenes that probably don't get talked about. So that's
Hmm.
the driving thing with this series. And it's become like part storytelling, part therapy, part just like
Therapy.
it's so therapeutic getting this information out there, knowing that people are hearing it and being able to translate it into their own action, really, because it's really about action. What do we do? What do
Yes.
we
Right.
do? Not just
No,
what do we think? What do we
that
do?
Exactly.
that's super inspiring. And I think if anything, the listeners can take away, it's like trying to do something for your own communities. Like I know personally, it's hard to find a lot of other Asian American um trombone players, but also like just in general, like jazz, people who identify themselves as jazz musicians. And
Mhm.
how do you navigate the scene, like with knowing that your identity sometimes plays a role in
Hmm.
the decisions that you
Absolutely.
make, and the career, even sometimes the career path that you choose for yourself.
Absolutely.
And yeah, just having that conversation can be very enlightening, can help you think about like how you can help each other during this time. And yeah, I just want to say that's been really inspiring
Yeah,
for
yeah.
myself,
Thank
and
you.
and
Thank
trying
you.
to think of ways to
Yeah.
do that,
Yeah, I think one
yeah.
of the other important things that it does is it gives us courage,
Hmm.
and sometimes when you know that somebody else is going through what you're going through, now you have the courage to move
Hmm.
forward with your own thing. That's really important in any community, jazz community, but any community, but just speaking out, you never know how that can inspire somebody else to be courageous in their own path and tell their own stories. It's really important.
Yeah, or make them feel that they're not by themselves, that they're not the
Yes.
only
Exactly.
ones going through this situation. I think
Yes.
that's, it's I don't know if you guys can relate, but like, just sometimes feeling like as musicians that, oh no, I can't, I'm not allowed to ask for help, or,
Yeah.
I'm just like, I got to figure out on my own. I got to
Yeah.
be you know what I mean?
Yes.
So
Hmm.
yeah, I think I personally, I'm loving all this different uh things that musicians particularly are doing. And as I was, having conversation with some of other, friends, musicians, one of the feels is that hopefully, we can continue doing this even after we open up and we start playing gigs. I know we're gonna get busy and we're gonna get start touring, or whatever it is that
Yeah.
you're gonna start doing. But if we shouldn't stop this, like
Yeah.
we shouldn't.
I think
Hmm.
it's kind of like once you break out the shell, and say a little baby, whatever, and they're hatched out of a shell, you don't go back in the shell.
Right,
you
exactly.
know, you're out there now. This is out there now. And this
Yeah.
platform, I think we should look at it as a learning time, because things are not going to go back to how they were.
Yeah.
They're going to be how they are,
Exactly. That's the
Yeah.
good
whatever that
part.
is. And we really don't know what that is right now, but our adaptability is going to be the most important thing. And what we do during this time is going to be, once again, it's going to give us the courage to say, hey, you don't want to book me in your club? Well, how about you book me for a live stream?
Yep.
All right.
Yeah.
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 You know,
Different opportunity.
Yep.
it's a totally different way of thinking, and once again, like, out of necessity, we
That's
have to
right.
start thinking
Out
differently
of this.
because it wasn't that great before.
Exactly.
Like, it wasn't that great.
Right. We try
Still,
to make it seem like it
yeah.
was like something it wasn't. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
Right.
what are we going back
Mm,
to, like,
mm,
Exactly.
and
Yes.
that's just something that kind of I think that a little bit experience can give you the foresight to see like things have never gone back. They always go forward. So let's,
Mm.
let's keep let's use the experiences of the past to propel us into the future.
Right, right. Yeah, that kind of forward mentality definitely comes through. I mean, your channel is on its way to getting 1,000 subscribers. Is that correct?
Yes, yes, we are about 75 people away at this point, and
Oh,
it's
wow.
crazy.
I was
Yeah,
actually number
man.
900 because I forgot to subscribe on the Yardbird channel that
Oh,
we
okay,
have.
nice.
So when it was like 8.99, I clicked. It was like 900.
Man, we I appreciate that so much. Man, my wife helps me out with the channel too. She does a lot of
Oh,
the
that's awesome.
stuff like I'm in front of the camera and she's like behind the scenes making sure everything is cool. So, we both feel really proud of this
Yeah.
accomplishment
I
so
hope you give her
far.
That's
film
really cool.
credit.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
I think she gets a lot of the credit,
Oh, yes.
man.
She gets a lot of the credit. She deserves it. She
That's
absolutely
awesome,
deserves it.
man.
Well, what have you been doing to promote the channel, and what have you been learning during this process? I think people find that interesting.
Yeah. So that's another thing that I did a lot of homework into before I jumped into having the channel. And looking at like some of the things that other people do, but not copying, what other people do, just understanding what works for them. The first part is really just being me. I haven't tried to do anything really that's too far outside of me. And as the channel has grown, like I've been able to be myself more. So that's been helpful, I think, in people seeing who I am. Being consistent has been probably the most important thing.
Mm.
I put out at least one video weekly on my YouTube channel. And it's really something that I started with a rate of what I could handle. I'm doing a lot of other stuff too.
Yeah.
So now that I'm kind of in the groove, like I feel like I can do a little bit more, which would help the growth even more. But consistency is
It's really
paramount,
key.
really, really key. Being a part of groups, and sharing the content in groups, but not just sharing the content in the group and then like never commenting on anything else in the
Oh,
group, like actually
Yes.
being an active
part of
part
the
of the groups.
makes sense.
That's been really important, and that's led to people finding the channel. Sometimes people have asked specific questions and I can say, hey, here's my opinion, and also, hey, here's a video, and which leads them to find more about the channel. So just the overall community building, like that, doing collaborations with different people has also been really helpful. Bringing their audience to my audience and vice versa. That's been super helpful also. So those were kind of the keys so far that have been really helpful to me. That, oh yeah, and I would say being responsive to comments. Yeah, I try and
Mm.
respond to every comment that I get in a genuine way, not just a generic response, to give a genuine response. That way people know you're truly engaged. Um,
Mm.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that definitely sounds like the participation is as important as the content creation
absolutely.
itself. Because
Absolutely.
people want to feel like you're uh a human, like responding to, whatever that they have to say as well, right? Like
Yes, yes.
that's part of the
Yeah, every subscriber is a person,
Exactly.
and they
hmm
they have a lot of choices. There's no shortage of trombone channels, or brass channels that they could choose to subscribe to, and I really think about that, including it in my content creation. I try to talk and speak as if this is the first time somebody's discovering the channel,
mm,
and really giving value. Everything I do is about offering value to the listener or to the viewer. I'm really not thinking about myself too much. I really want to share some value so that when people come to the channel, they leave getting something, even if it's just one little thing. If you get something, I feel good about that.
Mm.
yeah. Well, it takes a lot of work to do it on a weekly basis,
It does.
yeah, not a lot of people know the behind the scenes of like,
Mm,
at the end of the day, it's almost like a full-time job,
It
especially if
really
you're
is.
putting out like really quality content with a lot of value. Yeah, you gotta
Yeah.
think a lot about it, right?
Yeah, definitely. It's there's a lot of planning that goes in, not just
Mhm,
to having ideas for the videos, but to doing the research of like how does the title work,
mhm,
because people forget that YouTube and these different things, it's there's search engines, so you
mhm.
have to think about all aspects of your description, keywords. Does your video title, are people even going to search for that? You could have
Mhm.
the greatest content in the world. If nobody searches for it, it's going to be difficult to find,
Yeah.
so it's all about kind of like knowing those things and preparing yourself for that, preparing yourself within your content for your title. Get ready to say your title in your video and throughout your video, because it's transcribing what you're saying, and it's going to make it
Mm.
easier to find, so all those little things like really really help just the algorithm, that work in your favor.
right,
Man,
right.
that's it's truly a thing that needs some research and lining up an organization. How do you see this translating to I don't know, maybe I know you also provide lessons and stuff like that. Like people coming to your channel, how are you connecting with them? Is it more like you want you just or what are the goals of that? Like just for people listening out there, like, okay, I got some content, I'm getting some people subscribed to my channel, they're coming to am I sending them to my website, and then what am I doing? You know what I mean?
Sure, sure. Well, one of my goals with my content is to get people to want to learn more. All of the videos give you like a nice little snippet into these different concepts. But, ultimately, if you're really curious, I would want you to, come take a lesson and learn a
Mm,
little bit more, because I think it's really helpful when we have the tools, and we can use them for ourselves. I don't want to have people come and take a lesson so I can teach them my way of doing it. I want
mm,
people to take a lesson so they can figure out their way of doing it,
yeah.
and I
Right,
can
right.
just coach them to doing that. I think I've always felt comfortable teaching, and I feel comfortable learning also. And
Mm,
I've realized the more I teach, the more I learn, so I just want to
Mhm.
be like a platform, really, for people to be able to explore more within themselves.
mm,
And sometimes just a little guidance is like all we need. It unlocks the code for us.
that's true. Yep.
Right. Have you
Mm.
seen like an increase in the amount of people that want to take lessons ever since you started the channel, or like has it been kind of like the equal amount? What's the what are some of
Definitely,
the
there's
takeaways?
definitely been a increase for sure.
Hmm.
And it's really interesting because it comes more of word of mouth. So it's like people that know me that see the video recommend me to people that they actually know in real life,
Mm,
and then they
Oh,
come and take lessons with me. So it's like a weird circle. Like some people are like, "Hey, I found your channel, but such and such knows you," and it's like, "Yeah, you're a great player on the bandstand." I've had people though. I have a student that's over in Tasmania in Australia
oh,
wow.
nice.
that just kind of found the channel, was like, "Hey,
That's cool.
I can relate to what you're talking about. Let's get together." So
What
all
time of the
different.
day do you guys meet?
It's early for him in the morning. It's the evening for me, but I
Yeah, it's
don't
probably
mind.
better that way.
Yeah, I don't mind. I'll make the exceptions. I don't mind. I'll make it work.
Yeah.
Well, that's amazing. Wow, having a reach like that far. I mean, that's
Yeah,
what the
Yeah.
internet's for, right?
you realize it is the World Wide Web,
Yes.
so that's the world. you know?
Exactly. No,
Yeah.
man, I think we love the stuff that you're doing, because it's not like you said, even in your lessons, You're not, this is not, I'm just, I'm teaching you what I want you to teach. I'm teaching you something that's going to help you find yourself, or, and then also like sharing your stories about your case with dystonia too. As I mentioned, I talked to you before. I have a friend that he was going through this situation, and he didn't know anybody, and he was very shy about it. And
Yeah.
I can see that, like he was like, yeah, don't tell anybody,
Yeah.
but I'm going through this.
Yeah.
But just, I'm just telling you directly because I don't want to lose any gig. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. Yep.
I was like, oh shoot, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, no, it's frightening. It's terrifying, and it's because it is our livelihood, because it is our reputation, all of these things play a role in like really keeping the dystonia, there, because you're tense and all of that kind of feeds the dystonia. But just overall how you function, it's any business, it's like quality control, and if there's something wrong with your product, we see it across all kinds of businesses. I mean, look at the Boeing planes, and they have these horrible crashes, and it's like, no, it's okay, it's okay, because they're trying to
Right.
like save the quality control. It's the same with us as musicians, but once we know that there's somebody else out there that's dealt with it, like I didn't really know. And I started doing some research, and it's like, oh, there's a couple people here and there. And then once I started sharing my story, then it was like, whoa, really? You too? You too? And nobody really talked about it. We're athletes with injuries, and we don't want that to jeopardize the game,
right.
and this is business, no matter what. We're musicians, we love doing what we're doing, but there is a business side to what we do, and
Yes.
that's actually us. We are our business, and we have to guard that, and be very careful and smart about our business decisions.
Yeah.
That's some great advice. Be smart
Yeah.
about the business decisions, man. That's
Yes.
yeah, no doubt about it. Yeah, when your livelihood is on the line, it's totally changes the mentality of like how you're handling it. And yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And you sharing that story, just putting yourself out there, that vulnerability, I think, it changes the landscape of like what we how we see musicians and entertainers, and people we just assume are 100% okay all the time, right?
Yes. Yes.
And I think that's something that we also want to spread the idea of, is it's okay to have like certain failures in your life, or this sense of failure. Like
Yes.
oftentimes it's like we just want to say, oh, it's great that you succeeded, and this is all the stuff that I've done,
Yeah.
but you sharing that story, that's a that's a powerful, yeah,
Yeah, I think
message.
when we get a taste of success, it's like when you taste like something really good, like that's what you want, and you might even binge on that thing, say it's a food or whatever, you'll binge on it for a little bit. But life is not really like that. Yeah, and sometimes, I feel like I've learned the most from having to deal with experiences like this. When I had dystonia, it was probably the one of the lowest points in my life,
Mm,
but now I feel like I'm at the highest point of my
That's
life.
awesome.
that's beautiful, man.
Would I
Wow.
have been there
Yeah.
without, one of the, so each part of it plays a key element. I don't feel like you can really reach, or you will try to really reach, and keep going if you're comfortable, so once again, it comes back to that, kind of pushing your own comfort level and just never getting too comfortable in whatever venture it is.
Yeah, man, that is very interesting because it also let me know if you agree with this, but it's also like the it compares to like the maybe a similar journey that musicians have in their careers when we have like very high points in our careers, and then sometimes,
Mm,
just gig wise, man, I got this amazing gig this week, and then next week I'm doing this gig, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, how do I cope with this? How do
Yeah.
I
Oh
how
yeah.
do I deal with, I remember, myself moving out here and just being blessed with, like, I remember just like not having any work and then just picking anything, just like I
Hmm.
was like, I saw this thing on at school, like, hey, we need a sax player. I was like, who's this people? I don't care. I'm gonna go
Yeah.
do a gig. I don't, nobody's calling me.
Yeah.
So I remember just doing that and I was like, oh my God, but man, I'm in New York. I should be doing this. But I was like, I appreciate the work. And then I started getting some things and I was like, oh, this is amazing. This is the high top. But then next week, I don't have these gigs every week.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
what do you think about that, man? How, as musicians, how do we deal with those situations?
Yeah, that's, I mean, I think that's something that like all musicians, if you're fortunate to get the good gig, because some people just deal with the
That's true.
struggle and they never really get the good gig.
It's true.
But it's really about piecing things together. When I look back at my career, the things that have created consistency have come from a lot of different places. And it's come from connections that I've made at a lot of different points in my career.
Mm,
So for instance, like I played with Harry Connick Jr. for like 13 or 14 years now. That
nice.
connection came from a recommendation from my high school trombone teacher.
Oh wow.
Okay. Like,
Whoa.
so it's just like, okay, how did that work?
That's
Good
right.
question.
But
So don't hate on your high school t-shirt,
I'm
please.
telling you, because you just never know. It was because my high school teacher knew my work ethic and had watched my work ethic
Wow.
through high school that he recommended to the person who was playing bass trombone in the band at that time. Hey, yeah, this person's one of my best students ever. So like
Wow.
I wouldn't have thought anything like that, but it's important to not burn any bridges, if you can. There's certain bridges that you don't need to keep, so like
True.
be selective with that. You don't have to keep every bridge intact. But whenever you're doing a performance and you come in as a sideman or something like that, understand that that's an opportunity for longevity. You don't know if this person in 9 years is going to be the person that calls you for the gig that saves your butt
That's
at that
right.
time. Like you
Right.
just don't know. And so when you start to string all of these things together throughout your career, then it just becomes a career. It's very rare that you have people that one artist or one person is working enough to sustain you just through them.
Mm,
You have to do different things. So the way you piece those things together, you just don't know how that puzzle is going to come together. But every piece of that puzzle is important. Yeah, and you might
mm,
not realize it at the time you're in it, but always think about the longevity of what
Mm,
you're doing. And any project, no matter how big or small, think about the longevity
mm.
of what you're
wow.
laying down.
That's
Yeah, that's a
great
great
advice.
bird's.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a great bird's eye view of the whole like situation. Rather than individually looking at each gig, like this is this and this is that. You try to think about over time. This
Yeah,
is building up, right, to like
correct.
something bigger.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's if perspective is really important, and if
Mm,
you are too focused on what's right in front of you, you're gonna just miss the bigger picture. And I think with maturity, you're able to step back more and more and see the bigger picture. But the quicker you can get to that, the easier it's gonna make what's in front of you, because you'll realize that some things aren't that serious. We go crazy over like certain things, and in the grand scheme it's like not that serious.
right, right.
Right.
The next day you wake up, you're like, oh, wasn't that serious?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes it just means sleeping it off, man,
Yes,
for sure.
correct.
That's right.
But speaking of which, the connections that you were speaking of before, I'm thinking about this as a trombone player because oftentimes we get called a lot for big band gigs, especially if
Mhm.
if you're in that world. As soon as you step inside it, like, here comes five more big band gigs,
Right.
right? So do you still feel like the big band world is still like a breeding ground and also a way to connect with like a lot more musicians than like a small group situation?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've played in like a lot of big bands. And one thing I realized that is really important is, like you said, it's an opportunity to learn from so many other people. Especially if it's a band that's had some time around. I was fortunate to come up in the Duke Ellington Orchestra. I started playing with them when I was like maybe 20 years old or something like that.
Nice.
Wow.
And like talk about like not just learning how to play the music, learning how to be a man, learning how to travel on the road, learning the importance of Tupperware, and and like when you're hungry in the hotel at 2 a.m. and you see like one of the guys eating Tupperware from the kid, it's like, okay, I see. I mean, cats used to travel with like Tupperware and their own seasonings and stuff, and I was like, what are you doing? But they were never hungry in the morning when you have to leave at 5 a.m. and there's no breakfast or whatever, So all of these like little things, you get an opportunity to learn that from more people when you're in a big band. The small group is great, but there's more opportunities to learn in a big band. And also just being a trombonist sitting in the middle of the band, having that perspective of, the trumpets in your ear, the drummer and the rhythm section right there, the sax is in front. It's just a different kind of vibration that you get from being in the middle of the band. And it's
Much agreed.
Yeah, it's a learning experience that you can transfer. You can relate a little bit more to what's going on all around you.
That's why some people say trombone players are like the best arrangers.
Generally so. And I think that has a lot to do with it, from being in the middle of the band and just understanding everybody's function. You could be that trumpet player in the back and never hear what the sax player second alto is doing. Like, a trombone, you're not going to miss that.
Yeah. Well, I know as a trombonist, like, do you get sometimes stuck in this position where you get known as like a big band trombonist? Right.
Yeah, that can happen. It's not a bad thing, It really depends on the trajectory and the shape of your career. Understand that as a trombonist, the most opportunities you're going to have a lot of time are in a big band because there's just more of us needed.
Your chances are generally higher.
Greater, much greater, and from that, with being around all these other musicians, they can recommend you for other things. And you can be like the first person they think of when it's a smaller group situation. So it's just increasing your opportunity to be able to work with it, because the random sax player might never call you. But if they play in a big band with you and they know somebody needs trombone, well, you're up. So once again, it's about piecing these, putting these pieces of the puzzle together, and not just like, I'm in a big band, I only get to play one solo tonight. It's like, yeah, okay, you play your one solo and you learn from everybody else and you connect with everybody else, and and you may get another gig from that may be big band or otherwise.
Right. Yeah, I remember walking into some of those big band situations and you get like that one solo. Like I remember just thinking, okay, this one solo, that's all I care about.
Right.
You know what I mean? And
Right.
that was like not the right mentality to have with like, there's people right next to you that want to talk to you and like,
That's right.
That's
get to
true.
know you, and you just go like, oh, I'm just concentrating on this.
Yes.
The changes.
Yeah,
This
right.
part.
I'll tell you a funny story. I was maybe like 19 years old or so, and I was at the New School at the time, and I went to a Frank Foster rehearsal. Frank Foster had a big band, the Loud Minority. And I went to a rehearsal. It was at NJ Pack. I don't think I had ever been to New Jersey at the time. So I took the train out there, and my mentor at the time, Vincent Gardner, he was like, listen, I have to leave this rehearsal early because I have another gig, but I haven't told. So just show up, bring your horn, show up, chill out for the rehearsal. And then when I have to leave, you just jump in there. Right. So it was cool. Sat there the whole rehearsal. He split, and I went in and I was playing for him. And this guy, Tom Bones, Tom Malone,
Tom Bones Malone.
But not
No.
I'm not who we're thinking about. Not him. It was a different guy. It was
Okay.
a different cat, and he was a tall guy and kind of imposing, right, cat. And he said, he had a solo on a blues, and he said, "Man, take the solo." And I was like, "No, man, it's cool. It's all right. It's your solo." And he was like, "Man, take the solo." And I was like, "Okay, I'll take the solo." So I played the solo, and it was like, I didn't realize it until many years later. It was like, this is your chance to like be heard. Yeah. He was like, it wasn't about like, hey, it was like, hey, I'm giving you the opportunity to be heard. And from that point, I realized like, never miss your opportunity. If somebody's like, hey, take the solo, just take it, like, because that's your opportunity to learn. And even if you don't know what's going on, it's your opportunity to learn. You better know what's going on before you get up, like in all aspects. It's right. It's very telling. When I play big band gigs, if I'm doing it multiple times, I check out like what's going on there, because you never know when they're going to say, hey, you take the solo. And you don't want to be like, oh, well, I don't know the changes. I've never done, like you want to be prepared for that. So you can just step up and go. People will notice that. People will definitely take note of that. And that's how you build your reputation. It's your business card.
That's right. Like they say, right, that every time you get a chance to play, it's like take it as like an audition, right? You don't know who's listening. You want to best represent yourself at all times, man.
That's 100% true.
That's really awesome. Thanks for sharing that story with us, though. I'm definitely gonna remember that.
I think a lot of us can relate to that.
I'll make sure I take that solo next time.
I'm telling you, man, just take it.
Yeah, man.
Hilarious.
So, just to continue our conversation, man, and it really goes from where we're mentioning that, as a musician, as a jazz musician, you go into the big band world and really just embracing that opportunity to like learn. Can you tell us about like the financials of a gig economy? What do you think of that? I mean, I know we touched on different things and really diversifying your sources of income, really as a musician, considering yourself as the business, because that's what we are, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you share some thoughts on this topic?
Sure. Well, I mean, I've been at it since like, I think 16 or 17 is when I first started getting paid for gigs. There's a lot of things I wish I knew then that I know now. The first thing I would say, though, and this is something that's kind of more recent for me, is pay yourself first. If you do, let's just say it's a $50 gig, right? Take $5 to $10 of that and just, that's yours. It makes it a $40 gig. With travel, it makes it a $30 gig or whatever the case is. But you have to get used to taking care of yourself first. And if you start this when you're younger, by the time you get older, you don't realize how quickly that adds up. And I think back to when I was young, all these little gigs, if I just paid myself for, even if it was $5, and I just took that and this is mine, and you accumulate that towards, you have to start looking at yourself as a business like right away. And just like any business, it's like, how do you grow your business? If you were a business and you just kept doing the same thing over and over, your business is not going to grow, So sometimes it's about, at first, when you're starting out, it's about taking what you can and doing everything to try and accumulate those little bits and pieces and savings so that you can move up to the next level. Once you do get to that next level, or how you get to that next level, surround yourself with people who have those opportunities, so make sure that you find a mentor, and don't just mentor them or don't just want them to mentor you so you can get their gig. Like truly understand what it is about how they operate and how they stay on their gigs. That's important. You don't just get one gig and then it's one time. How do you stay on the gig? How do you get called back?
How do you keep the gig?
Yes.
Keep the gig, yeah.
All of that. And you have to learn that. It's not just something that you just magically know. you have to learn that, and put that together as a piece of the puzzle. Um, and so besides paying yourself first and being around people who can help you out, just always remember, like you said, that when somebody hears you play, you just don't know how that's going to transfer, and sees you play, so now everything is visual now, and we're in this multimedia world. So don't just think you playing the sound is the only thing. Your presentation could be what attracts somebody to want to work with you. So it can be more than just making music. Maybe they want to hire you for a photo session. Maybe they want to hire you for a video session. Maybe on that video session, you meet somebody else that wants to, so you can, don't just limit yourself to what you can do on the bandstand, especially at this time. Start exploring like what else you're good at, and like, is there a way that I can make money off of this? You might be good at computer programming, you might be good at editing, you might be good at some, all of these are jobs, and having that experience of being a musician and knowing how to put the pieces together and practice and get better. It's an experience that not everybody has. So we're good at adapting to doing different things. Like, don't just leave yourself in the music economy. Like, keep your brain open, because there might be something else that can help. Photography is like that for me. There's sometimes I get hired for photography jobs. I love doing photography. It's as serious about it as music, but it's also another stream of income, that can play. It pays better than like gigs sometimes,
Right.
and it's like, it can fill that financial gap, so don't just leave your finances to the bandstand. Start thinking outside of the bandstand. Can you help a club in some kind of way? Queen, can you just like everything? We need everything right now, because it's not just going to be, hey, I played this concert or I went on this tour and now I have enough money to survive my life. It's not like that. We got to put it all together.
Yeah. That's
Man,
true.
that's like a huge string of advice that is super needed right now. So
Yeah.
really appreciate you mentioning all those different aspects. I mean, we could sit here all day and like pick apart every single thing that you just said. I mean, it's it's like you gotta consider as many of those options as possible, because it's not only for ourselves. It's like also helps the community as a whole, reaching beyond just our scope of musicians,
Yes.
which is can be a little small sometimes.
Very, very true.
and dwindling.
Very
Um,
true.
So that's like
A lot of
beautiful.
the great artists from the past that we admire did multiple things. Gordon
Mm,
Parks was a pianist, but we know him as a great photographer. Like,
mm,
there's many people who were dancers or who were this, and we know them as writer. Maya Angelou, I believe, was a dancer for a long time. We know her as a writer.
mm.
So don't just keep your scope, to what you think it is. Explore. So
Yeah.
there might be something else out there. And I kind of think all this social media stuff, I'm exploring too. I'm wondering what else would I be good at,
Yeah.
besides playing music.
Yeah, that work ethic of a musician definitely translates to whatever else you do. Hopefully, you had good work ethic when you were a musician.
Hopefully.
Yes, yes, it's
Saying
true.
that first,
Hopefully you showed
then you
up
can
to
translate that.
yeah.
Very true. Very
You showed
true.
up to rehearsal on time and stuff, right?
Right.
All of those things, man. It's your business card. You wouldn't want to go to a business and it be open late.
Yeah.
Expect it's open at 10, be there at 10.
That's
Be there at
right.
9:30. Make sure you're
Yeah.
ready for me.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt.
That's true.
We're kind of coming up to the hour now. We don't want to limit ourselves, but we definitely know that
You
you're
you're a busy guy.
you're busy yourself. I mean,
Oh,
we want
man.
to make sure that you got the time to do what you need to do. So, but before we go, one thing that if you're comfortable sharing, what are your insights on the current jazz scene, especially in the New York City area? Like, I mean, we know that a jazz standard had just closed. Mentioning that, but also,
Yeah.
um, what are your thoughts just in general?
Yeah. I mean, we're about to have to be as creative as we've ever been. It's really it's interesting. The scene was one thing before this COVID happened, and it was a certain way. Yeah, there were places to play. Yes, there's a ton of amazing musicians. That's New York City. There's always going to be great musicians. But one thing that's kind of changing is the way the information is being passed. As we have more and more of our masters leave us,
Mm.
the
Mm.
ability to learn from a lineage and learn a certain way is getting less and less. And there's less and less people for younger musicians to learn from. So, because of social media and all of these different things that you can be seen and people can know you and you can get that positive reinforcement and all of that, when you stand on the bandstand, like your peer people who are slightly older than understand the process of this. So I think the thing that's missing from the scene is a lot of younger musicians really seeking out musicians who are slightly older and much older than them to really learn how to be a leader, how to be a sideman. You have to learn that. So that's one thing that I kind of see
Mm.
missing from the scene a little bit, is just that eagerness to go and find an elder and learn from them, learn how to be a professional from them. At the same time, though, like, players are so talented now, that they might feel like they can skip that step, but you can't skip that step. Like, you can't. So in a way,
Mm.
I look at the future, and when that generation is gone, in the next 10 to 20 years, what is it going to be? Is it only going to be a crowd of musicians who gained social media acceptance, or is it going to be musicians who have like learned from other? That's the thing that kind of is like a little tricky. But with all of this virtual things going on, it's like the best time now ever to reach out to somebody and sit down and talk and learn, and do something
Mm.
that you might not do, prior to all of this happening. So, the scene now is like a computer screen, really, but take advantage of this opportunity to do that, because we still have to learn this music the same way. It still needs to be passed on the same way. And there still needs to be those elements of what kept it going before there. We don't want to lose all of that and just get caught up in the technology, but use the technology to reach out to an older musician who might be somewhere that we didn't have access to them, but now they know how to use Zoom. And now you can write an email and say, "Hey, I would just love to talk to you, just so I can learn from you." You'd be surprised that what kind of access you can get now, and bring that back to the bandstand when things do open up. Let the community be stronger, because you've done some homework in this time, and you're not just bringing your practice session for the last year back to the bandstand, because that's not what we need. Like, nobody needs that, really. Like,
Yeah,
especially
right.
New York's jazz scene. Like, there's enough of that.
No.
We need some people to bring their experience from this time to the bandstand, so that people will want to come and live that experience moving forward.
Right. Right.
Yeah, man. That's
Clap to that.
Hey Dion, thank you so much, man, for your insight. This is the second chance I get to talk to you this through this medium, and I look forward for more ways to actually create community with you, and listen to your music, and listen to check out what you're doing with Chops Shop and everything that you do, man. We really appreciate your entertainment. Peter and I appreciate you coming into the show.
I
And
absolutely thank you so much for having me, and everything that you guys are doing to help the community and educate people and help us get through this time. It's so important. So a big, clap for you guys. It's
Yeah,
important.
thank you,
yeah,
Dion. Yeah,
thanks,
much
man.
respect to you, man. And you make me want to practice more because
Wait, practice?
I'm like looking at these videos like this is such great information, and then I try to pick up the horn like, oh shoot. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
man.
yeah, no, it's all very motivating. So
Oh,
thank you
man.
so much, man.
Man, my
man,
pleasure.
for
My
doing this.
pleasure.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, thank you everyone for listening. The very first special guest here on Jazz
Oh,
Biz
yeah.
101, Dion Tucker.
Had to be him
Right.
for sure.
Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it.
We want to thank Dion Tucker for joining us here today on Jazz Biz 101. If you like what you heard, make sure to follow him on social media. We included all the links in our description. If you want to follow Yardbird Entertainment to see what we're up to and maybe some of the virtual concerts coming up, be sure to subscribe to us on our website, www.yardbirdent.com.